Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a continuation to the earlier video in which we have seen how to create a list and how to access it and a few basic operations on list, and we'll continue with the operations on the list. And apart from that, we will be seeing tuples in this video. Let's start with the tutorial. Starting with, we'll see how to concatenate two lists. Let us create two lists. Here we are going to concatenate the two lists using the plus operator. Let us see that. Here we can see that we have concatenated the two lists, but the actual list remains the same since we have not updated the actual list. Not only two lists, we can even concatenate a list variable with some other list of items. Let us see with an example. This is how concatenation operation is done on two lists. Next, if we want to print the list repeated number of times as long as we want, we use the multiplication operator. Let us see with an example. If we want to print the list for 3 times, we'll simply multiply the list L with 3. This is pretty much how we print a list multiple times. Let us see few more operations that can be performed using some predefined functions on the list. Let us see the list of functions, starting with append, insert, extend, remove, pop, clear, del, count, index, and sort. Let us see each function with an example, starting with append function. What append function does is that it appends or inserts a new item at the end of the list. Let us see with an example. Here we are considering the list L. If we want to append a new item to L, use the list name followed by dot operator and the function name append. Later on we will be watching more about functions in further videos. Append takes one argument. Let us say we are giving a string as an argument to append to the list L. If we hit enter, hello will be appended at the end of the list L. If we try to print L, we can see that the new item is inserted at the end of the list. This is how append function inserts a new item at the end of the list. Let's move on to the next function, which is insert. What insert does is that it pretty much does the same task as append, but instead of inserting at the end, we can insert at the specified index value. Let's see with an example. As I said earlier, always the indexing starts with 0, 1 and so on. Let us see if we want to insert a new item at the index value 1, we are going to write in the following manner: L dot insert followed by insert function accepts two arguments, one the index value followed by that the value that we need to insert. So here we considered that we are going to insert at the index value 1, so we are giving the index value 1 and the value that we need to insert at the index location 1, let us say 12. And if we try to print L, we can see that at the index position 1 we have successfully inserted 12. This is how insert operation is done. Let us move on to the next function, extend. What extend does is that you can append a range of values or another list. As we can see, append and insert both can insert a single item at once, whereas if we use extend function, we can append a list of items using another list, or we can extend a range of values. Let us see both with an example. Let us first extend the list with a range of values. Here I am going to use the predefined function range, which I will be discussing in later on videos. For this video we will be considering the range function, which is a predefined function. Let us extend the list L using extend function. Here we are going to specify the range of values. Let's say we are using the range predefined function, and we are going to extend like starting with 0 and ending with 5. Here it extends from 0 to till 4 as it stops at 5. Here we have extended the list. Let's see the content present in the list L. This is how we can extend a range of values, or we can append a range of values into a list. Let's see how to extend the existing list with another list. Let's say I'm going to extend the list L with L2. And we are going to specify the argument. Keep a point in mind that extend function also accepts only one argument. If we hit enter, let us see the content of list L again. Here we can see that the content of list L2, A and B are appended at the end of the list L. This is how extend function is used to extend or append a list of values or a range of values at the end of the list. Let's move on to the next function, which is remove. Remove is used to remove a specific value from the list. Let us see with an example. Here, let's say in the list L, I want to delete this text, the string from the list. We can do like so. And in the function argument, we are going to specify the value that we need to delete from the list. Let's say we consider to delete the hello from the list, so we are going to specify the value that we need to delete. Here we got an error because HEELO is the string we specified to delete, which does not exist in the list. So keep a point in mind that the items that exist in the list can be deleted using the remove function. The items that doesn't exist in the list, we can't delete. Let us try to remove element that we wanted to remove from the list. If we print the list now, we can see that the string is successfully removed from the list. Let us move on to the next function, which is pop. What pop function does is that it deletes an element at the end of the list. You need not to specify what element to delete. It by default deletes the element that is at the end of the list. Let us see with an example. If we write L.pop, we can see at the last modification B is the last element in the list. If we execute L.pop, the element what we have deleted gets printed on the screen, and if we try to print the list again, we can see that B is deleted from the list. Let us move on to the next operation, which is clear. What clear operation does is that it simply removes all the elements from the list without deleting the list. Let us see with an example. Here we are trying to clear the list L2. Let us see the contents of L2 before clearing. We can see that the content of L2 is A and B. If we clear and now if we try to print the list L2, we can see that the list is empty, but still the list L2 exists. Let's move on to the next function, which is del. The operation done by del is that it deletes the entire list. It may be an empty list or a non-empty list. It simply deletes the entire list. Let us see with example. Here we have an empty list L2. Let us delete it using the del keyword, del L2. Now we have successfully deleted the list L2. Now if we try to print the list L2, then we get an error that L2 is not defined since we have deleted the list L2. Let's move on to the next operation, which is count. What count function does is that it counts the number of occurrences of an item in the list. Let's see with an example. Here we can see the list L has two occurrences of the value 1, and if we want to count, we'll simply refer the list L followed by the count function and the value that we need to count in the list. Here I am considering 1. If we execute it, we can see that it got a result of 2 since 1 exists in the list 2 times. If we refer suppose another value like A, we can see that the count value will be 1 since it exists only once. Let's move on to the next function, which is index. What index function does is that it returns the index position of an item for the first occurrence. It means that if we see in the list 1 has occurred 2 times, but what index function returns is that it returns the first occurrence index value. Let us see with an example. We are using the same list. And the element we need to get the index we will specify in the argument. We can see that the element 1, its first occurrence is at the index 0. Let's move on to the next function and the final function in this category, which is sort. Sort, the meaning itself specifies that it sorts the given list in an order. Let's see with an example. Here we are considering the list L again. If we sort the list L, we got an error because what sort function requires is that it requires a similar kind of data in the list, not different types of data. So while sorting, we need to keep a point in mind that we need similar kinds of data in the list. So let's create another list called L3, and we will create a numbered list. Let's say any value as you like. Let us sort the list L3. If we print the list L3, we can see that the list is sorted. Let's move on to the next topic in our tutorial today, which is tuples. Tuples are similar to that of a list, whereas the difference exists in two places. One is the syntactic difference. I will show you now. Let us say a tuple T, and here we are going to specify the list of items within a set of parentheses, an open parenthesis and close parenthesis. And similarly, like list, each item in the tuple is separated by comma operator. And the second major difference is that a list is mutable and a tuple is immutable. What mutable and immutable is that an mutable list can be modified like how we performed these operations, whereas an immutable, in the sense we can't change the content once it is defined. If once we had defined a tuple, we can't change the content that is present in the tuple. Let us see with an example. Here I am going to create a numbered tuple. We can have any kind of data similar like list in a tuple. If we try to update the index value, let's say 1, which means the value 221, if we try to update the value, we'll get an error. It says that tuple object does not support item assignment. That means we can't change any values in the tuple, even though you can't perform the operations that we have done on the list. Let us consider an operation like append. If we try to append an item at the end of the tuple, even now we got an error since tuple object does not have any attribute like append. But like how we done count and index, in the similar manner tuple supports those two functions. Apart from that, we can delete the entire tuple using the del keyword. In one more way, we can also create a tuple, which is by using the predefined function called tuple. Let us see with an example. Here we are considering another tuple called t1 and the function name tuple, and we are going to specify the set of values into the tuple. This is how we can create a tuple using the predefined function tuple. If we print the tuple t1, we got the value of hello 1 and 123. This is how we create tuples, and similar like list, we can access the tuples. Let's say for example we are going to access the value of t of 1. We can access it, but we can't perform any modification operation on the tuple, and we can delete the entire tuple using the keyword del. If we try to print the tuple t1, we can see that the t1 is not defined as we have deleted the tuple t1. That's all for this video, guys. In the next video we will be watching dictionaries and the operations that can be performed on dictionaries. Thanks for watching the video. Get subscribed and I will continue in the next video.